Good morning, everyone. I'm Faith Cacnyo from the BSP Research Academy, and I'll be your moderator for this morning's Research Huddle Seminar. Let me first note that the seminar is being recorded, and we are streaming live on the BSP's Facebook page. Our presentation for this morning is the first research study completed under the BSP Ateneo de Manila University Memorandum of Understanding on Research Collaboration and Engagements. Our paper presenter is Dr. Maire Carroline Magante. Dr. Magante obtained her PhD in Urban Studies and Regional Sciences from the Gran Sasso Science Institute in Italy under a full-ride scholarship from the Italian government. She did her PhD work both in Italy and the United Kingdom while presenting her research in international conferences across Europe, Hungary, Ireland, and Portugal. During her doctorate, she was a visiting scientist for the European Commission in Ispra, Italy, and a visiting researcher for the Queen's University, Belfast in Northern Ireland. She has contributed to publications at the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, European Commission, and World Journal of Applied Economics. As an early career researcher, she consulted with the Department of Trade and Industry and recently received a grant from the Friedrich Naumann Stiftung for migration reintegration research. Her most recent publication appears at the Journal of Population and Social Studies. Dr. Magante is currently an assistant professor at the Ateneo de Manila University, Department of Economics, and she is the first BSP visiting research economist from Ateneo. So without further delay, I now turn over the virtual floor to Dr. Magante for her presentation. Maire.
Thank you, Ma'am Faith. So good morning, everyone. If you're all ready, can Neil share the screen, please? All right, so again, good morning. I am Maire Carroline Magante from the Ateneo de Manila University, together with my co-authors, Dr. Mahalia Ravago, Dr. Faith Christian Cacnyo, Mr. Simon Kyle Bangko, and Ms. Marie Edelweiss Romarata. It's my honor to present to you our paper, No Teacher Left Behind Towards Improved Financial Education. Next slide, please. The outline for today's presentation is as follows. First, I will give a brief backgrounder on the research, highlighting the current status quo and the research question. It will then be followed by a brief literature review and presentation of our paper's methodology and summary statistics. We will then run you through the determinants of Filipino teachers' financial literacy based on our findings. Next, we will answer the second question: are teachers more financially literate than non-teachers? After discussing the answer to these two questions, we will discuss the policy implications and, of course, finally, the summary of our research. Next slide, please. So financial literacy is defined as the understanding of the existing financial products and services and the capacity to use these products and services to be able to identify or efficiently manage one's financial resources. So there is a dearth of studies that focus on the state of the financial literacy of teachers in developing countries. We contribute to filling this gap by focusing on teachers' financial literacy in a developing country like the Philippines. A developing country's experience is more nuanced than a developed country, so we focus on ours. Next slide, please. So the novelty of our study is that we use survey data sets covering 3 periods. So we have 2014, 2018, and 2022 data sets. This allows us to explore 2 important questions. First, what determines the financial literacy of teachers? And number 2, are teachers more financially literate than the average population? So we constructed a financial literacy index, what we call FLI, which we use for our 2-level analysis. The index is proxied by 2 measures. So we have the financial attitude behavior knowledge proxy, which we denote by FLI-ABK. And we have the second proxy, which is the 5 pillars of financial competencies, denoted by FLI-5P. So you will be noticing these names throughout the presentation. We explicitly designed the econometric analysis into two stages. To be specific, we use a simple OLS, or ordinary least squares estimation, in the methodology. And the first level of the analysis identifies the determinants of financial literacy in the Philippines using OLS for the data sets 2014 Metrobank survey data and the 2022 Teacher Survey on Financial Literacy data. For the second question, or the second level of analysis, we use the 2018 CFS to investigate whether the teachers are more financially literate than average Filipinos. Next slide, please. So there are 5 pillars that make up the key components of financial literacy. We have earning, spending, saving and investing, borrowing, and protecting. So each of these pillars highlight the basic competencies for an individual to make sound financial decisions. A good understanding of these 5 pillars allows an individual to make empowered and informed financial decisions, translating to a sound financial literacy. So earning refers to a person's understanding of their financial compensation or salary and benefits from their employment. Spending refers to getting the best value from a person's purchases by comparing the options that are available to them. This also means distinguishing between want to buy or need to buy to avoid spending beyond what they currently earn. Saving and investing, on the other hand, are taken together as both refers to safeguarding a person's future through investments in housing, retirement, and saving even small amounts of cash. Borrowing is another crucial pillar of financial literacy since it allows a person to build their credit and manage huge purchases such as houses. Borrowing also allows a person to manage their debt. Protecting, finally, refers to a person's capacity to protect themselves from unexpected emergencies, which tend to be very costly. So this involves a person's capacity to build an emergency savings fund or paying for the right insurance. So next slide, please. Although financial literacy is solely concentrated on the individual capability of a person, its effect, once compounded, would greatly impact the economy. So here in this slide, you can see only a few of the many benefits of being financially literate. So through the improvement of people's financial literacy comes better financial decisions, thus improving their financial situation. Financial literacy also allows the individual to make better and sound decisions regarding wealth, debt, pensions, and even their retirement. So a good level of financial literacy likewise translates to better household management, particularly in diversifying their own assets, wealth accumulation, and cushioning shocks. Apart from the better household management, divorce, mental illnesses, and other unhealthy experiences would also be avoided, as these are often rooted with financial related problems and lack of financial literacy skills and behavior. Next slide, please. So financial literacy of an individual may also be determined by the role of the parents. So basic education on money and handling finances are learned initially through the parents. And another determinant of financial literacy is age, which is among the most commonly cited. So financial literacy is observed to be higher among middle-aged adults compared to young people and elderly folks. Marital status also plays a role in determining financial literacy. So single individuals appear to have a considerable chance of having low financial literacy level as compared to our married individuals. So the individual's education is also used as a determinant of financial literacy. So studies such as that of Lusardi, Mitchell, Agnew, and Harrison found out that students' education affects their financial literacy level and their financial behavior. Curto and Bowen argued that financial literacy is also affected by the person's own networks, friends, social circles. So emerging studies in the financial literature niche also focuses on the role of media as a determinant of financial literacy. So we have authors such as Ismael, Sergieva, and Singh cite that various media platforms such as newspapers, televisions, and even social media produce information that affects savings behaviors of the consumer. So next slide, please. So what do teachers play in the role of financial literacy? So they play a crucial role in shaping the financial behavior and attitudes of students. A good understanding of financial concepts is essential for teachers to impart them effectively to their students. Financial education should start at a young age to produce financially responsible and, of course, knowledgeable adults. It is a dynamic capability that enables individuals to properly and efficiently participate and respond to ever-changing economic and financial conditions. So increase in financial literacy among teachers also contribute to the increase in their own well-being. How? Through better household management, access to financial instruments, and even financial capacity for big and unexpected expenses. So now you can see that an increase in financial literacy do not only benefit the students, the learners, and future adults, but they also benefit teachers themselves by increasing their well-being. Next slide, please. So while it is true that teachers and the majority of Filipino adults may tend to know the importance of financial literacy, they are also constrained by various factors, both at their capacity to translate this knowledge into actual financial behavior, as well as the ability of formal financial services to meet the needs of these clients. So addressing the gaps in financial literacy to introduce basic and even more sophisticated financial concepts among Filipino adults may aid in increasing the demand and uptake for more complex and financial products and services beyond just having the normal deposit or savings account. Next slide, please. So for our study, we used 3 data sets. I've mentioned that earlier. So to investigate the first research question, which is what are the determinants of financial literacy, we use the readily accessible 2014 Metro Bank survey data from the study of Ravago and MAPA in 2020, which gathered information of teachers who competed in the Metro Bank Foundation Search for Outstanding Teachers in the Philippines from 1988 to 2010. And the second would be our very own 2022 Teachers Survey on Financial Literacy. So remember that. So for the determinants, we use 2014 and 2022 surveys. For the second question, which investigates whether teachers are more financially literate than non-teachers, we use the 2018 BSP Consumer Finance Survey, or the CFS. Next slide, please. Now, to expound on our own 2022 Teachers Survey on Financial Literacy, our survey process began with the recruitment of the participants through social media postings, email requests, and of course, our own networks. Column 1, top photos. You can see the first page of the survey through the SurveyMonkey platform. The bottom photo on the same column shows the recruitment poster for this research. Since the study received endorsement both from CHED and DepEd, as seen in the middle and rightmost documents on the screen, it took only about 2 months for the needed sample participants to be completed. So to investigate our first research question, we have 252 samples for year 2014 from Ravago and MAPA's Metro Bank survey data in 2014. And we have 395 samples from our very own 2022 Teacher Survey on Financial Literacy data. We use these data to show possible changes, because it's 2014 and 2022, to show possible changes and commonalities on the financial literacy of teachers from 2014 and 2022. These samples are randomly sampled with an oversampling towards the secondary education teachers, since financial literacy subjects are integrated within the advanced years of the K-12 curriculum. Next slide, please. So meanwhile, we have 102 teachers and 2,379 non-teachers from the 2018 Consumer Finance Survey, or CFS. We aim to get a sample of 6% for teachers as a ratio to the sample of non-teachers, which is based on the proportion of the number of teachers to the total number of labor force with at least a tertiary education in the 2018 CFS. However, due to the data limitations of the 2018 CFS, we considered the education level of at least high school level, and our final sample of teachers is 4.3% of the sample of non-teachers. So we use this sample to compare the financial literacy of teachers versus the non-teachers. Next slide, please. Now, for our methodology, it is comprised with two levels. So the first level of analysis creates the Financial Literacy Index, or FLI. You can see that on your left side of the screen. The index is based on their respective performance and revealed financial health by their answers to the various financial categories in the survey. So this index is proxied by two measures. So we have first one, the Financial Attitude Behavior Knowledge Proxy, or what we call FBK proxy. And the second one would be, of course, the 5 pillars, which is earning, saving and investing, spending, borrowing, and protecting. So for the first proxy of financial literacy, the three aspects are equally weighted at 33.33% each. Furthermore, questions from the survey are mutually exclusively distributed according to the three aspects. So, and the 33.33 weight per aspect is evenly distributed among the corresponding questions. So that's how we got the weights and the indices. So the second proxy is determined by the following pillars. Again, it's the earning, saving and investing, spending, borrowing, and protecting. So the protecting pillar is further distinguished between government-mandated contributions on insurances and social protection, and the voluntary contribution on other forms of insurance. So these are the privately paid ones. Following the principles above, each pillar, each of the 5 pillars is given equal weights at 16.67%, and this is equally distributed among the mutually exclusively assigned questions under each of the pillar. So next slide, please. Okay, for all the calculations of the FLI index, the unweighted values of a question range from 0 to 1. So binary questions. We fully penalize, meaning we awarded 0 the respondents for negative responses, and fully award, meaning we awarded 1 the respondents for positive responses. So meanwhile, for quantitative questions, we take the percentile rank of these responses against the total sample. These scores are multiplied by the allotted weight per question. Formally, let X be the allocated score per question and B the weight allocated per question. Then the financial literacy index for each respondent I, whether this is operationalized by the first or the second proxy, so FABK or FLI 5P, is simply the sum of the products of weighted scores per question. So for your second level of analysis, it identifies the determinants of financial literacy in the Philippines using OLS. So you can see the functional form of our simple equation for the determinants of financial literacy in your right-hand side of the equation. So it's where Y is the dependent variable. It's your FLI or financial literacy index. X are the teachers or teacher-related independent variables. So these are their socioeconomic variables. We have also dummy variables for teachers' institutions, such as 1 if the teacher teaches in a public institution, or 0 if they teach in a private institution. We also have a dummy variable for teaching level, 1 for primary, 2 for secondary, and 3 for tertiary. Z are the control variables, such as region of residence, because this is a national survey, and other household characteristics. Beta sub 0 is the constant term, beta sub I, and beta n plus j are the coefficients of the x and z variables respectively. And of course, we have E for the error term. Next slide, please. So with the data collected from all the 3 sources, the 3 data sets, this table shows the summary statistics that are used for the regression analysis. We find that on average, FLI-AB and FLI-ABK tend to be higher than the FLI-5P for the proxies. So other variables include household income and expenditure, the proportion of members that are tertiary educated, the novel variable on whether household owns at least two information assets, such as either they have TV, radios, and the like. Next slide, please. Meanwhile, the graph reflects the changes in the ranking of the financial literacy per region. So you can see here, in terms of the FLI, we have based on the attitude and behavior, FLI-AB. In 2014, Northern Mindanao was the most financially literate, while Caraga was the least. By 2022, Central Visayas is the most financially literate, and BARMM was the least. Next slide, please. When using the financial literacy index using the 5 pillars or 5P, we find that CAR was the most financially literate region in 2014, while Davao region and Central Visayas were the most financially literate regions in 2022. Next slide, please. We also look at the level taught by the teachers. We find that teachers who teach at the tertiary level have the highest financial literacy index using both our FLI-AB and FLI-5P proxies. So in 2022, relative to the primary and secondary education teachers, that's our findings. A possible explanation for this is that university and college teachers often hold higher degrees, so they have their MA, MS, and PhD. Additionally, tertiary level teachers could be more exposed to financial courses, or they even specialize in financial related areas. However, we should note that in 2014, teachers in the secondary level ranked highest in their FLI using the AB proxy. Next slide, please. Meanwhile, in terms of educational teaching institution, we also found that FLI of teachers from the calculation using financial attitude and financial behavior is significantly higher among the teachers who teach in private school institutions than those who teach in public school institutions. However, the same significant difference cannot be ascertained if we use the FLI based on the 5-pillar proxy. Next slide, please. So finally, in terms of the income per quintile group, we also found that the higher the quintile the teacher belongs to, the higher their financial literacy is. Next slide. So now we test some of the descriptive findings from our summary statistics using our regression model in order to investigate which among the variables serve as a determinants of financial literacy of the teachers. From the 2022 teacher survey on financial literacy data, we find that household income and expenses, the proportion of household members with tertiary education and having 2 or more information assets such as TV, radios, and similar assets are positive determinants of financial literacy. Next slide, please. So this is the same survey. Our table is just long. So continuing on the same survey data, 2022, we can also see that the educational attainment is also a significant determinant of financial literacy for the teachers. Next slide, please. So when investigating the corresponding determinants for the Metro Bank survey data, this is the 2014 data set, we find that household income and expenses, as well as the level taught by teachers, are stronger determinants of financial literacy. Other variables such as the number of information assets owned, and next slide, there. The educational attainment of teachers are not significant determinants of FL or financial literacy in 2014. So next slide, please. So now we answer the first research question. Let me remind you that the first research question is, what are the determinants of financial literacy based on the databases of this research? So number one, as expected, a household's overall financial status proxied by household income and expenses significantly increases the financial literacy of a teacher. Having higher income or consumption levels may signify the capability of a household to manage their finances well, which translates into having a higher financial literacy for a teacher. However, results may also be interpreted as a risk aversion perspective. So where household members, including those teacher respondents as a working part of household, are nudged to increase their financial literacy in order to properly manage their wealth. Another finding is that educational attainment of the teachers surveyed has a positive, significant relationship on their financial literacy indices. So this is unsurprising since individuals tend to gain more information and learn practical knowledge as their educational attainment increases. Although financial literacy subjects are mainly taught in the Philippines during an individual's secondary education, the relationship between the degree and financial literacy increases more than double as one obtains postgraduate degrees. The third finding is that there is a positive relationship between teachers' financial literacy and the proportion of their household members who have at least a tertiary level of education. So this means that the financial literacy levels of the teachers could be influenced by a member or members of the household who is equally, or better yet, better educated than the teacher respondents. Finally, we saw that there is a positive, significant relationship between ownership of information assets. These are TV, mobile or cellular phone, personal computers, tablets, and laptops, and financial literacy. Next slide. Now, to respond to our second research question on whether teachers are more financially literate than non-teachers, we use the 2018 Consumer Finance Survey of BSP, or the CFS. In the figure, you can see that we show the average FLI of teachers versus non-teachers using our two proxies. Remember, our two proxies are AB, FLI AB for attitude and behavior, and FLI 5P for 5 pillars. So we can preliminary see in the figure that on average, teachers have a higher FLI than non-teachers. To see the robustness of this observation, we regress this data together with the determinants of the financial literacy of the teachers. Next slide, please. So in this table, we find that our observation is consistent throughout all the iterations of our regression model, where on average, teachers tend to have higher financial literacy index by at most 0.03 points than non-teachers. Next slide. So throughout all the iterations of our models, we find that teachers are more financially literate than the normal population. We further validate the finding that teachers have higher financial literacy than non-teachers using pooled regression. So the finding that teachers have higher financial literacy than average population is reassuring, given that they are the ones who provide us with financial education and also educating the children. As educators and mentors, they themselves are expected to know the different aspects of financial literacy and how this could be used to improve individual and household welfare. Next slide, please. So our findings indicate that teachers are not lacking financial literacy. Teachers, specifically public school teachers, have often cited their low take-home pay and a myriad of household expenses, such as education of children or siblings, and even classroom-related expenses such as classroom supplies and school contributions, as key contributing factors to their financial conundrum. To meet their financial needs, many teachers often resort to borrowing. Taking this into consideration, we identify 3 areas where existing financial education programs for teachers could be further strengthened. So first one, financial education programs for teachers have to emphasize the adverse consequences of excessive debt and the likelihood of falling into a debt trap. These programs should highlight the importance of keeping track of financial needs and expenses. Financial management can also help teachers better plan their spending and borrowing. Jabar and Delaiko in 2021 cited that the use of financial records and record keeping actually help keep the teachers from engaging in impulse buying. So this indicates the need for financial literacy programs that highlight the importance of using and keeping financial records, as these could influence individuals to be more conscious of their spending. So our second implication would be financial literacy programs for teachers need to include retirement planning. This is often not part of the financial education modules and programs for teachers. Retirement planning will provide teachers with longer view of managing their financial resources. This module should also present teachers with financial options that they could consider in saving and investing for their retirement years, such as personal equities or retirement account. For teachers about to retire, pre-retirement seminars would also be helpful to provide them with information and ideas on how to better handle their retirement money and pension. Lastly, given the strong thrust towards digitalization, financial literacy programs for teachers should include modules on the use of digital platforms and access to digital financial services. So teachers will not only become knowledgeable on how to use or how to leverage digital technology to their advantage, but they will also become aware of cyber scams and risks such as phishing and identity theft. Such information will enable them to better protect themselves and their hard-earned money from cyber thefts. Next slide, please. Okay, so we are now in the last part of our presentation. So the numerous iterations of the regression analysis you've seen earlier showed us the following findings with regards to the determinants of financial literacy among teachers in the Philippines. So first, one's overall household financial status, as measured by their income and expenses, reflects the financial literacy of the teachers as part of that certain household. Second, the higher the teacher's educational attainment, the higher their financial literacy are. Third, there is a positive, significant relationship between the teacher's financial literacy and their proportion of household members who also have a higher level of education. These three findings translate to a financially well-managed household as a result of financially well-versed individuals, so teachers themselves or individuals within that household. This research also found interesting determinants. For one, we found that ownership of information assets positively affects the financial literacy of the teachers. This research also found that based on the two measures of financial literacy, remember we have the financial attitude, behavior, knowledge, and the 5 pillars, Filipino teachers on average have higher financial literacy compared to the average Filipino population. So students will not be the only beneficiaries of financial education, but teachers and non-teaching personnel alike will also be provided with the capability building opportunities to strengthen their financial health. Specifically, concepts such as savings, spending, earning, budgeting, investing, and even entrepreneurship will be imbued among learners and personnel alike. Teachers have an integral role in educating students on financial matters. Thus, given this responsibility, it is important they themselves are financially literate. However, while efforts in the basic education sector exist, the impacts of these efforts on learners and teachers are yet to be observed. Furthermore, there is yet to be a more institutionalized implementation of financial literacy and education programs at the tertiary level. So this shows that programs on financial education can still be strengthened and broadened to further capacitate Filipinos, especially Filipino learners and educators alike, to make sound financial decisions and of course, to have a robust financial health. Next slide, please. Okay, with that, I end our presentation. We would like to acknowledge the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, BSP Research Academy, for providing the funding for this research. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much, Maire, for a very interesting presentation. We now open the floor for questions. So if you have any, you can kindly type them on the chat box. Kindly include your affiliation and I'll read them out. I think we have one here in the Q&A. They're asking if they can get a full copy of the study. I think we're coming out with the publication of this once we get to revise. If we get comments and suggestions, then we'll revise accordingly and have the paper published. So, questions? Okay, I think they're still trying to digest the presentation. So ako muna to ask some questions. Actually, I got some questions from a colleague of mine here at the BSP Research Academy, and he was just curious why the study actually put in equal weights on the 5 pillars when it computed for the financial literacy index. So why equal weights were applied to the 5 pillars?
From the get-go, we used because these 5 pillars are all equally weighted as well. If one pillar goes down, everything else follows. So we follow that rationale in putting and applying the equal weighted for the 5 pillars and translating it down to the 5 questions. So everything else is mutually and exclusively distributed, meaning one question cannot earn 2 points for different pillars. And I think that is the novelty of this research.
Okay, thank you for that, Maire. So I think another question and another thing that has been asked me over time is when it comes to conducting survey like this one, what are the advantages and disadvantages of actually implementing a survey like this to actually answer research questions like the one that we have on teachers, whether they are more financially literate than the common or on the average population and the like. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of actually having these kinds of survey for answering such research questions?
From the get-go, I think one of the main advantage is that we are able to reach out to teachers nationwide, and it's something that is very good because our survey and our data would be nationally representing teachers and their financial status as well. So that's one. It's a holistic survey that covers all the regions of the Philippines, and of course all the teachers as well, regardless of their educational status and institutions in which they are teaching. I think that's one of the big advantage of the nationally representative survey. One of the disadvantage, I guess, would be it would take quite long. The survey we had was 2 months just to gather the required sample size, but the work prior to doing the survey was 5 months, I think, because we had to secure recommendations from CHED, DepEd. We had to make sure that our survey is not intrusive. The survey questions is not intrusive. And of course, we have to get the approval from the ethics office to make sure that we are not ethically going against their rights. So it's a lot of processes, but then the gain is much more, considering that we had a holistic survey, which is a novel thing to have.
Okay, let me just read one question, then I'll go to Dr. Nai. Dr. Nai is a member of the BSP Research Expert Panel. Dr. Nai, I'll just read one question and then I'll go to you. So, why do you think teachers still fall into excessive debt despite being more financially literate than non-teachers, as suggested by the observations of the study?
Oh, that's a very difficult question to answer. Thank you for that, Dr. Nai. From the get-go, I would say that teachers would still fall into excessive debt because our findings show that they have to also provide not for their families, but also their financial expenditures also covers classroom expenditures at up to a certain point. So up to a certain point, teachers such as inner study public school teachers are providing for their own supplies, therefore for providing their own contributions, which should not be the case. They should not be covering the contributions for these things. Also in our culture, nuclear family is not as common. So if you're a teacher or even if you're a normal employee, you have the tendency to provide for other family members as well. And that's why we put in our policy implication to mitigate the chances of having or spiraling into a debt trap. We should have financial records, or we should encourage financial recording as well.
Okay, so Dr. Nai, perhaps for your question, acknowledge.
Yes. Good morning. It's very nice to hear you and very nice to meet you. I have a couple of questions that are more foundational. In particular, I question a bit the clarity of the background hypothesis. So I have two questions, well, two sets of questions. Basically, one is about the study itself. The second one is about the link between the study and the policy implications. So your method presupposes that our primary interest is in the marginal effect of a person being a teacher, conditional, holding constant all the other measurable socioeconomic variables, and seeing whether they have more or less financial literacy. And I'm not sure I understand why you would ask that question. Let me say, I'm not trying to be deliberately stupid. I'm asking for a very careful reason, because are we interested in the fact that our teachers have higher financial literacy than people of their same socioeconomic background, or are we interested in making sure teachers have a certain minimal amount of social financial literacy? And those are two different questions. Let me give you an example. If we were to ask about a college teacher in math, it would not help us if the average college teacher had more calculus knowledge than the average Filipino. But their knowledge is that only 20% of college teachers in teaching math at university level were able to do calculus. That would be a fail for all teachers. So that in that case, when we're talking about the competence of the teacher, we don't care about whether at the margin they're better than people who don't necessarily have that information. We're asking whether they have adequate knowledge if our goal is to help them train, say, high school students in financial literacy. Do you understand? So it's not enough that, so for example, whatever class they are, A, B, C, D, E, if they are, say, in C class and they have more financial literacy in C class, but this average person in C class has less financial literacy than we want high school students to get, then even that teacher who has more financial literacy has inadequate financial literacy. You understand? And so you need to be very clear about this. Moreover, your method is not, of course, identification, because the correlations are running into each other. Many of the things you correct for are corrected with the things later on you're checking on. So that a lot of these, for example, you don't check on subject being taught. You don't take care about quality of school being taught at. And all these things are correlated with these other issues. So it may well be that very often the differences you get, for example, you say sometimes you get secondary teachers being better than college teachers, but that's because you've controlled for a lot of things. It may well be that, for example, let's say college teachers are overwhelmingly concentrated in the humanities, and on average, people in the humanities have lower financial literacy than people doing math or engineering. Then that is what's driving your result, not the teacher part. You understand? So there are a lot of major factors. These are not minor, trivial factors, right? These are major factors you are not controlling for. And so you are jumping to the conclusion right away without eliminating plausible first order factors. That's number one. But the second thing that kind of worries me a little bit are your policy conclusions. Because it seems to me, regardless of the findings of your thesis, the policy conclusions would be the same. Imagine we found the opposite, that teachers have less financial literacy than people at their same level. You would still recommend they learn more. You would still recommend they take courses in how to avoid household debt. In fact, you would recommend that for all working people. So again, I'm not sure how any of the things you've suggested follows from the study. You understand, by not making clear exactly what the study is supposed to show, I'm also not clear which financial policy that you recommend is a conclusion from the study or is something you could believe even if I never read the study. And that's why it's very important. I emphasize this when I'm teaching at the BSP, for researchers to separate the positive parts of their work, which is what happened or what is happening, versus what you think should be done. Because very often people can agree on what happened without agreeing on what should be done. Because, for example, what should be done requires a baseline. What is the baseline of financial literacy that should be? Somebody might say, well, everyone should be financial literate, but the cost of doing that, even in a rich country like the US, is infinite. I mean, there's no way to make all people in America financial literate, not least of which is because people going to school or even being trained don't often listen to what they're being trained to do unless they're forced to. You understand? And so I don't have a baseline in my mind. I don't have a reference point. What is the reference point which will justify more training of teachers? And why teachers? Why not just say in general people, working should have more financial literacy? But again, that's the same black hole. How much? Should we give them 1 week online course that you can just record and they can watch and they can just do a questionnaire afterwards? Well, how many people after that will remain financially literate after 1 year? Because a lot of people just ignore these things, right? Because
Yes.
as we know, one of the big problems of financial literacy is not what we know, but the peers effects. You yourself alluded to that. If you're taking care of many people, people say, hindi bali na, just borrow that. Or hindi bali na, we should buy that. We need that, even though it's bad for their household to buy that because it puts them at too much risk. The equivalent is in America, even though realtors are required to explain a lot of financial literacy before someone buys the house. A lot of people buy houses they can't afford, or that they can only afford if their job is guaranteed forever. And then people say, oh my God, I was unemployed for 3 months. Now I can't make my payments. And now I'm broke. So in other words, the question you have to ask is, why is financial literacy more needed? And where is it most needed that works? So yeah, that's virtually a thesis in itself. You understand? And so you're combining 2 or 3 very hard things into one thesis. And I would first try to clarify one thing carefully before jumping to other hard things. Anyway, otherwise the presentation was very good. So it's clear enough for me to see the main issues. But for your own benefit, I think you should clarify some of these things. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Dr. Nai. Actually, I do agree with one of the weakness that of this research that Dr. Nai pointed. For one, we only classify the teachers based on their level of education, the teaching level of education, and their type of institution, which is public and private, which I think generalizes the teachers in very broad and specific boxes. So I think one of the main ways we're in we can further this research would be identifying the courses they teach themselves. So you are right in what you said, that okay, maybe that they teach math, but that does not translate to being financially healthy or financially sound. So those are the recommendations we will consider in our study and revising the paper. Thank you so much, Dr. Nai.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nai. I would like to acknowledge the presence of Yusek Christian Ablan of the Department of Education. I think I would want to give Yusek some time to actually perhaps react to the study. Kayo sir yung mas may alam, you're more knowledgeable in the status of the teachers and the state of their pertaining to their financial conditions, as well as the efforts of DepEd to actually push financial literacy. Kasama din po siya sa curriculum, right, for secondary school, for the K-12. Yusek Avilan, if you have some words.
Thanks, Faith. Thank you to the BSP for inviting the Department of Education with this discussion. Congratulations to Dr. Maire for that wonderful presentation on financial literacy of our teachers. I am not the undersecretary in charge for our teachers. That would be Undersecretary Gloria Humamil Mercado, who presides over our human resources and organizational development. Neither am I the Undersecretary for Finance. That would be Undersecretary Ann Sevilla. I am the Undersecretary for Administration, overseeing planning, as well as ICT. And my interest in this is to make sure that whenever we plan for a higher budget for the department, that we are planning it properly. One thing that I can share with Dr. Maire, Faith, and Professor Nai, and the rest of our attendees and participants in this webinar is that there are calls to increase the salary of our entry-level teachers. Currently, our Teacher 1 items are pegged at salary grade number 11, SG 11. They take home around 25 to 27,000 pesos per month. This is actually already very competitive, to the point that sometimes some private schools, especially in the rural areas, complain that they have difficulties hiring teachers in the private school sector because our public school system already pays them well. But our problem, Dr. Maire, Professor Nai, and Faith, and everyone else, is that even though they're already paid competitively compared to their peers in the private sector, our teachers continue to take out loans. One of the reasons is what already Dr. Maire mentioned. Some of them actually spend for their students. Those are one of the things that we want Ateneo and other researchers to look into. What are the reasons behind our teachers getting themselves in debt? What percentage are those who actually shell out for their students or pay for their learning materials? How many percentage actually do that because they're the breadwinner or head of the family? How many actually are irresponsible and buy extravagant appliances? So we're interested in that. But anyway, there are calls to increase the salary grade of an entry-level teacher from SG 11 to SG 15, which is a significant jump. And on a planning perspective, is actually painful for us. While we have the largest budget amongst all government agencies, a big chunk of that is actually for PS, or salaries of our teachers. And if we increase the salary of our entry-level teachers from SG 11 to SG 15, that actually will eat up on our budget. Is our solution to the loans increasing their salary, or is it providing them with financial literacy? The discussion of Dr. Maire is actually very informative to us, because now it it forwards to us the idea of how early should we provide financial literacy to our teachers? Is it too late if we provide them with financial literacy trainings when they're already in the department? Should the intervention be then in their university level or their undergrad, so that when they enter the workforce, they will be more responsible? So um, I appreciate the sharing of Dr. Maire, because of course it validates the obvious, which is of course higher educational attainment means they're more financial literacy, financially literate. It means that if their household has more than one member with a university degree, it means they're more financial literate. Obviously, in some areas, no, many of our teachers are the highest ranking in terms of academics in their household, and we want to address that. So those are the things that I was just thinking while Dr. Maire and Dr. Nai were discussing earlier. Again, on behalf of the DepEd, I appreciate this workshop. We hope that the BSP and the Ateneo de Manila University continue to do research around this space, because we will be definitely using the output, and I look forward to reading the text of the paper of Dr. Maire. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Yusek Ablan. These are comments that we could actually look into now, Maire. Perhaps do a follow-up study on what Yusek Ablan mentioned about reasons why teachers are actually getting into debt. Okay, perhaps there's time for just one more question. So this is from Bing Rado. He asks, given the results, are there current financial products that are well suited for teachers, conditional on their financial literacy level?
Okay, so I think I have it here as well. I just have to look for it. For the policy, I think we discussed it in the policy implications for the teachers, specifically financial options that they could consider, given the backgrounder that was given to us by Yusek Ablan. So among our recommendations would be personal equity and retirement account. Those are our two recommendations for teachers to have in preparation for their retirement, or in case that they want to save and invest. So I think those types of financial instruments are highly accessible to teachers regardless of their salary grade and financial status at the moment.
Okay.
So those are just the two, but we could explore more on other financial products as well.
Or perhaps if they can become more digitally savvy, they can actually look into the digital financial products that are being offered.
Yes, that's also true, Dr. Castillo.
So I think that's all the time that we have for now. So as we close, may I invite all of our panelists to kindly open your videos for the customary group photo. So we're gonna take a group photo with everyone. Please kindly open your videos. We'll take it, Neil. Ikaw na lang ba?
All right. We'll just wait for everyone to open their cameras. All right.
Open.
Wait, 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. All right.
Thank you very much. So before we end, I just have a few announcements and reminders. The third BSP International Research Fair is happening this 13 and 14 of June with a theme navigating through the headwinds, the way ahead for central banks. The conference will be a hybrid event, and we invite everyone to join us either on-site, which will be at the PICC, or online. Kindly check the BSP website for the registration details and the details of the conference. And may we also request everyone to kindly answer the feedback survey. Your suggestions and comments will help us improve the Research Huddle Seminar Series. The link to the survey is being flashed on screen, and you can also find it in the chat box. Lastly, We look forward to seeing you all again in the next Research Huddle seminar in May. Again, thank you for joining us this morning and stay safe, everyone. Maraming salamat po. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Hi, Sir Bobby. Kamusta? Good
Hello.
evening.
Hi, Faith.